Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome to a very special game of StarCraft 2. Today we have playing for Team Matcherino here in the bottom left, the American who's currently in Korea. It is Astrea. And in the top right, the South Korean that is currently in Korea. It is gumihpo. I think currently playing for no team after he's left Storm Gaming. Has not quite found a new team yet. As he opens up with a proxy rack here across the map. Just building it here on the other side. Very close to this ramp as well. It's a good location for a barracks. If I've ever seen a location for a barracks, I would definitely, this is definitely one of the locations that you could pick for a barracks. As we see Astrea, very little gas mining. Very little gas mining actually. Gonna throw down that cybernetics score here. 122. That is beautiful. It's 2 seconds earlier than the default is, so that means he had some very solid probe mining here. Some good control on those initial probes, making sure that they all go to the closest by patch, making sure that they don't bounce around. And Astrea now has scouted the lack of a barracks, sees the double gas, and responds here with a very simple early zealot. This is actually a very simple response, I like it. Often the simplest responses are the best. There's really two schools of thought against this particular build order. So either it is the zealot into the pylon on the low ground like this, or it is the no zealot and then the pylon on the high ground. So you can build a battery on the high ground, you can build a battery downstairs, and then you just start chrono boosting stalkers. Like no matter what you do, you end up chrono boosting stalkers. Most of the time Probe was in a little bit of danger there, but will manage to survive as this stalker is gonna require a second chrono. And one probe will go down, but this Reaper is in some serious crap right now with only 2 HP remaining. And the Stalker, well, about to chase it away. Oh, gumihpo needs to be super careful with this. He can't afford to lose that Reaper. He's gonna go for a triple Reaper opener. We'll have, I guess, a single Hellion with that as well. And now constructs a command center on top of all of that. There's continued heavy gas mining here. So one of the things we very often see is way less gas mining for a quicker command center. So you pull out of gas after you start your factory, but gumihpo is someone that very often prefers just continuing the gas mining so that he can do, some fancy things with that gas. And what those fancy things are, that's for gumihpo to decide. Sometimes it's going to be Battlecruiser, sometimes it's Ravens. This time it seems like it's just going to be a quick cyclone here into a tech lab on that barracks. We have the Twilight Council, very late of course, but we'll start here in the natural triple Reaper Hellion show up. There is 3 Stalkers that should be somewhat ready for this. I don't think that Astrea will lose too much here. One Stalker in a little bit of trouble is going to go down, and well, in exchange gets one more Reaper and another Hellion. So that definitely was a very solid trade that I think Astrea is going to be quite happy with. Reaper being sent in towards the main base is going to be incapable of doing anything as well. Perhaps get a scout, but that's going to be it. So there is a battery in position and that should absolutely clean everything up. Especially just single Reaper damage output isn't high enough to really burst through a battery. Follow-up here for gumihpo is going to be, well, so far just a single barracks. We have tank production as well over here. A starport on the way. 28 workers to 35. Blink a little bit over, 10% done right now here for Astrea. So it is coming out. It is coming out pretty slowly though. Robotics facility also on the way. A major supply block for our Protoss player from America, who's probably aiming to get this third base at some point. I'd be very surprised if Astrea says from here on out, like, hey, I have 2 gateways right now, I have Blink, I want to go for a 4-gate or a 3-gate timing attack with a Prism. I think everything so far in this game screams, I will be expanding. I might do that with Quick Tech as he's going up to 4 gases, whether that's going to be a Templar Archives or a Robotics Bay, that is to be seen. But knowing Astrea, my estimation is that it is going to be a Robotics Bay. Ooh, 3rd gate does get thrown down. See what comes out there. It's going to be an Observer, not a Prism. Nice map control, or at least nice attempt to try and gather some map control here for Astrea. We'll still try to fight this Cyclone double Reaper force. Cyclone's gonna get another Stalker kill, so that is actually a pretty effective Cyclone. Usually if you build a Cyclone against Stalkers, you're not really expecting anything with it. Almost got another lock on there on that Stalker. That could have been impactful, as the Cyclone does get to survive for now. Blink is about to finish up, but the Cyclone stays alive. The Reapers stay alive, at least for a little bit longer. Could have maybe gone in for a scout here towards the natural to check the gas count, but instead gumihpo will just lose all of them for free. Templar Archives is going to be the follow-up. This is not really what I had expected, as Astrea usually is more of a Robo-Bay enjoyer, but see what he can do with that Templar Archives. Third base over halfway done right now. We have Stim starting just now. So I think the timings will line up that Storm is going to be out before the Stim attack arrives. And that is very, very important. Currently 3 gateways with 3 more on the way. So decent production. It's not great, it's not brilliant, but it's going to most likely be good enough for now. There's 3 tanks out meanwhile. And there's a Raven as well. So gumihpo, based on the third base timing, has probably made the read that there is 4 gases on the map. And as we see this Raven not going across the map, but staying with the main army, I think that gumihpo has made the read that this is going to be a Colossus play. Because otherwise, most of the time, you're going to send it across the map. Which is actually what's happening right now. He's trying to send it across the map. Look at this. Raven did spot the Stalker. Stalker didn't spot the Raven. Raven's going to take an alternative route, and it's just barely going to be capable of making it out. No, it's going to get spotted here by this Zealot. Got quite some airtime as well, so I'd be surprised if Astrea doesn't respond. These 2 medevacs as well being boosted out. Zealot barely misses them. That is extremely frustrating. As together with this Prism, or together with this Raven, these 2 medevacs could... They're not going to win the game, but they could perhaps get a snipe on a Templar here, which would be pretty big. Stalker's now heading back home. Cyclone made its way on the map somehow, some way. gumihpo sees a Zealot over here. Is Astrea not entirely in position? We have a 6 Zealot warp in. Here comes a flank as well. And this is going to be a pretty decent fight for now. Good feedback as well. That means the Raven's not going to be capable of throwing down any more auto turrets or interference matrices or, God forbids, an anti-armor missile. Gateway count still at 6. That does need to get booted up to 8 or perhaps even 10 in the near future, or Astrea is going to be floating a crap ton of money. There is no Prism with this particular push. That means that there's no reinforcements. There's also no safe space for these Templars to relax in. I actually think this is not the correct call currently, this move out. I think Astrea needs to be happy that he's alive, and he needs to just kind of take it from there. Say, hey, let's just stay alive. Maybe we can get some tech out, maybe even a fort base, work on a second forge. These are things that I think would be smart. Attacking into a defensive Terran setup without reinforcement, without Templar in a Prism, that's going to be a very big no-no. Especially given the fact that Terran also has superior upgrades right now. Currently just +1 on the attack, but armor is about to finish up as well. Ghost Stars popping out very soon. We have the armory that is basically done constructing as well. This Raven is still being chased around like some, like a bunny being chased by a fox, except it is a pack of foxes, and these foxes have feedback, which can be cast on the bunny and deal a lot of damage to the bunny. The analogy doesn't really work, is I think what we figured out here, but we tried our best. Fort base now on the way for gumihpo, as the fort base for Astrea has also started. We do have the tech pad now into the double robo. The way that this game is set up, I wouldn't even completely mind a straight up move here into Disruptor. So rather than saying, hey, I want to get my Colossus out first, just straight up getting 2, 3, 4 Disruptors and then going into Colossus. I think that is something that is perhaps a little bit underrated by Protoss players. Like the automatic habit of just going into Colossus initially is very strong. But I think in some situations, it's okay to open with a couple of Disruptors. I think this particular situation, it definitely would be kind of fine to do that. There's a couple of mines out already. And Disruptors are just a little bit cheaper. They're quicker as well to come out. They're a lot more useful than Colossus when you have them, especially because the Colossus often pop out without range. So right now these Colossus are fairly useless. Well, the moment the first 2 Disruptors pop out, you actually can do something with them. We do have a nice map control centric setup here for Astrea. He's very keen on making sure that he knows when his opponent is moving out. And this is a typical gumihpo move out as well, by the way, here. Just two groups of army being set up. Templar not paying attention. Asleep on the job. This guy's gonna get fired, or should get fired here. Completely missed that move out. Now, there is another Templar defensively here that should be capable of doing something. Perhaps a flank from the back is still possible as well. There's a lot of units here at the same time. We do have a minor attack. I don't think you can really attack into this though, Astrea. This seems very, very risky. These Colossus do not have range quite yet. Sensor Tower will get taken out, as well as one tank. This army, I think, might have gotten stormed. They look fairly low. Maybe just a feedback on the Ghost though. And then a stim, that's also completely possible. Infantry armor level 2 is about to finish up, despite there being no attack upgrades yet for Gumihpo. So that might have been a small mistake there. Thermal Lance finishes up too. And we're really heading into a mid-game right now, in which I think currently Astrea is a little bit favored. He's on 4 gases, has a solid setup, is getting 2 more robotics facilities. So really leaning into that 4 robo play that we've seen Classic play a bit as of late. Double mines are going to get taken out here, of course. Mines require 2 storms to end up dying, which is fairly frustrating. But if there's 2 mines at the same spot, definitely worth it to waste those storms on. Well, it's not really wasting if it's worth it, is it now? No 5th base yet here for Gumihpo. No barracks 6, 7, and 8 either here for Gumihpo. No second eBay for Gumihpo. I feel like the main thing that the Gumi God is lacking currently is in the infrastructure. Not so much in anything else. I think his army is actually fairly strong. It has 6 Ghosts. A little bit Marine-centric still, with only 15 Marauders. Only 2 Vikings as well. But I do believe that he's going to be fine with that, as long as he can split his army and he can move out the moment the Protoss player decides to move in. I think that's going to be an okay situation. Defensively, I'm not so sure if Astrea can break his opponent here. He's gonna try without a Prism, without a significant disruptor count. But I think Astrea should know that this is not how it's supposed to be. We have a big stim forward here. Astrea is desperately trying to get back home. At the same time, Gumihpo already starts moving out with his right side army. And this is where I feel like the Korean Terrans are at their absolute best. It's when they have map control, when they have 2 armies on the map. It is so freaking hard to deal with this. Another random Templar is gonna get picked off here. Astrea not quick enough with those responses yet. Has a lot of Templar spread around the map, but has not been using them so far. A couple of EMPs went down, I'm not sure on what, perhaps just on those cannons, perhaps just on those batteries. Could have been that there was a Templar there as well. At the same time, big storm landing on the left side army. As a flank comes in, Disruptors desperately trying to get hits as well. Big Zealot warp in here, as the 5th base is going to get sniped down. And the Zealots will most likely end up falling, but this is going to be a cleanup. As 2-2 finally does finish up here for Gumihpo. Finds himself in a kind of a frustrating spot. Yes, he cleared a base, but while clearing that base also lost map control. And because we don't have that high barracks count that is now being added in, the reproduction is just going to be too slow to really keep that map control. Usually what you could do is you send this army back on the map and then reinforcements defend. But because there is so little production here, especially when it comes to those barracks units, I think it's going to take quite a while until you have a proper defense set up, and Gumihpo doesn't want to risk moving out right now. He's afraid of losing his own 4th base. He has extra command centers set up, can use those for scanning, can use them for muling, and we have another command center that's being constructed right now, and I think that is most likely going to be for a planetary here on that 5th base. So yeah, it looks bad that Astrea lost a 5th, but at the same time, he was up a base before that, and now the amount of bases is just... the amount of mining bases is just exactly the same. So I think Astrea is going to be pretty okay with this situation. He won back map control. He's just rebuilding that 5th base. Had to rebuild maybe a couple of workers, but also it really isn't the end of the world in this stage of the game. Command center under some heavy sieging from these Colossus. The Vikings now move forward. Marauder's going to get taken out by the Stalkers. Disruptor count is phenomenal at 12. But 1 tank is actually putting in quite some work here. We have 1 tank on this side and I think 1 tank on the other side. Yeah, very useful to kind of deny disruptor abuse from a distance. Do have a Templar feedbacking one of these medevacs. It's a move you don't really see so often, but of course it's very viable if the medevac count is low. And you feedback 4 or 5 medevacs here with 2 Templar. All of a sudden there's basically no healing for this entire Terran force, and that can really bite the Terran in the bum pretty quickly. We do finally have 2 Stargates being added on, as well as a fleet beacon, so it's going to bring the Stargate count up to 3 here. I think at least, yep. You have the air weapons upgrades as well. So it could be for Tempest, could also just be for carriers. Love to see a couple more cannons being added in, as well as a Templar per base. I think that's going to be so hugely helpful here for Astrea. While you're trying to keep map control, it's just making sure that these outside bases are secured. So we have a couple of Templar just randomly spread out across the map, and I'm a huge fan of that. I really do like that. +3 about to finish up here for gumihpo. So Astrea once again is just going to be... That is a really bad position for a Templar, honestly. It's on the bottom of a ramp where he can't, you know, no vision on top. It's usually not entirely how you want to be doing it. 4 more cannons being added. This is a good move. I really, really appreciate that. I much would have preferred seeing the 6th base go down in the bottom right, because the heaviest presence of the army right now is on the right side. This left side is much harder to get up. Much harder to get up. Well, you probably want to be walking around the right side majority of the time, so you can just take this as your 6th and this as your 7th, while keeping this secure with a higher cannon count and more Templar as well. Because we see this, the 6th base definitely did get denied instantly. Splitting off army towards that area can be quite tricky. We have a move in once again. Liberator count is growing up to 8. Poof, poof. Another sensor tower gets blasted there. This is a weird split off on this army. That's 4 Colossus, a Templar, and a bunch of Stalkers. The Viking count on the map currently is simply not high enough to really deal with this big blink forward, or big stim forward, as well as an anti-armor missile here on top of the majority of this Protoss army. I don't think Astrea can really move into any position here. This is such a flankable army as well. The moment the storm is gone, I think this army just pretty much falls apart. 6th base going up. We have more cannons as well, as batteries are being added in at a high pace. 4 more starports. This is almost smelling like a battlecruiser transition here for me. Astrea is going to spot the fact that 1 extra starport is going down. Astrea is also adding in 2 more stargates himself as he goes up to 5. But in order to get battlecruisers out, which I've seen some Terrans do as of late, what you really need is to get rid of your main army. And I think this is the main issue right now for gumihpo, is that he can't really get rid of his main army. How do you do that in a responsible way without just straight up dying behind it? I don't quite see it. Yeah, here we go. We have the weapon rift research right now, also known as the Yamato cannon. Upgrade. Couple of disruptor shots. And you see how keen gumihpo all of a sudden is. You know, he needs to be out on the map because he needs to responsibly just lose stuff. Nice zoning storm. Hits absolutely nothing, but does give the disruptors a little bit more time to regain their shots. This is just a hugely terrible army as well that Astrea is working with, honestly, when it comes to pushing into locations. He has no harassment either. So life is just... It just kind of sucks for him, to be honest. Low gateway count, only at 9, while having 5k resources. 5k minerals. Actually has more like, what is this? 8k resources or so in the bank. Close to 8k resources. Templar's gonna get sniped here. Left side army is still very vulnerable. We have triple battlecruisers on the way. We also have 3 carriers on the way. The upgrades for the carriers are going to be looking a little bit better as there's double cybernetics core research. So we already have +2 on the way for the armor and +3 on the way for the attack. +3 is already done for the battlecruisers, but vehicle plating has just barely started level 1. So I do believe that Astrea is going to surpass his opponent's upgrades pretty freaking soon. 2 big storms, nice on those SCVs as well, I do like that. First 3 BCs are out, or are soon going to be out. And I think now life is going to be difficult. Triple lib harass here coming in towards this base. We do have that scan. This is going to be hard to deal with. Probably going to need a... Well, what is that? Like 8, 9 stalkers to deal with this. These guys have at least +2 ship weapons. That means that they'll be 2-shotting stalkers. There's really not enough stalkers to deal with this. So maybe you just want to send carriers over. Yeah, that's what we're going to do indeed. Now, topside base is going to get taken out as well at the same time. Observer count is fairly large here. 3 being built at the same time as well, as they're all being repositioned. Of course, with the Raven around, that's going to make matters a little bit easier. Ghost now being split off from the main force. But Astrea doesn't really have the army to chase here. And as a result, it's just going to be, well, letting these ghosts survive. Gumihpo doesn't have a whole lot of cash as he builds 4 more BCs. The first 3 are out, and I wonder what he's going to do with them. Is he just going to send them, yep, towards the bottom right, and then perhaps try and teleport back home or teleport towards the other side? This is a very common way to play with Battlecruisers, kind of regaining that map control that you have lost. Now, I still think you also want a decently sized Bioforce against this type of Protoss army, because you want to be, you know, a little bit flexible with your movement. It's very important for Gumihpo to hide his initial move out, as he's about to lose his 7th base. Or, well, I guess that was his 6th base, but now this will turn into his 6th base. His mining isn't looking so hot, but he has enough in the bank that I don't think it's actually going to matter. Battlecruiser count up to 5 right now, as 2 are already flying towards the far left. I always love these little split-offs on Battlecruisers. You have like a group of 3 Battlecruisers to the right, a group of 2 Battlecruisers to the left. I think that often is very cool to watch. It does look quite powerful. As now Gumihpo is getting a little bit more ballsy out here on the map. As a result, is going to lose some units and free up some supply for bigger Battlecruiser production. I almost feel like that Gumihpo should just go here towards this left side right now. Yeah, it's gonna move in with those Battlecruisers. It's only 2 to start with. It's gonna lose the first one for free. So the BC transition gets revealed. I wonder what the response is going to be out of Astrea. Will we see that mothership? We're gonna see DT blink. Okay. Mothership and Tempest are a very common response to this, and I really think that Colossus at this point are practically useless. Astrea is still sticking with them though, doesn't want to quite throw them away for free. A little bit of a fight, skirmish in the middle of the map. Battlecruiser count up to 6 here on the top left. Maybe there's more out already. I don't think so. Yeah, it's just a 6. 4 of them are going to be moving in. No, make that all 6. We'll fly into a pylon, so it's going to get spotted. And I think this is the hardest thing to deal with as a Protoss player, because cannon lines don't really work out. These Tempests are not going to finish up either, because the pylon's just going to get cleared before that. At least for one of these Stargates. And I think Gumihpo possibly could just blink to the other side of the map. Oh, here we go. Tempest in trouble. No, not going to get any Yamatos. 1, 2, and that's the free Tempest that you get. Absolutely beautiful stuff. Blink towards the other side, will manage to deal with this Stalker. And then a move that we very often see is that when you blink to the other side, your main army moves in where your Battlecruisers were before. I think that is often a very powerful move indeed. Loving the scans here, despite there being a Raven already. That's a typical Terran thing to do as well. That really is a typical Terran thing. So BC's indeed going in. Now, they might be killing themselves in some way because they're fairly low. They need to be really careful to not just die against a Tempest carrier attack or a bunch of Stalkers that will show up. Don't forget Yamato's still available. That means that a lot of these high HP air units that Protoss has could be in some danger. Big blink forward, one time Battlecruiser will end up dying to the Tempest and Stalker shots, but at the same time, this base is going to die. EMP goes down on the Nexus. Might be heading into a bit of a base trade scenario here. Astrea does see these Battlecruisers. Battlecruisers, of course, want to move past this army. I actually think that with the available BCs that can make the jump across the map, you just go for the jump. Just go into the main base or you go into the third to really start to kick off this base trade and kick it into overdrive. As I'm loving this move here. I'm loving this move out of Gumihpo. Gumihpo says, hey, you probably have a very big bank, but if you don't have any production, how are you going to utilize the bank? And honestly, there's no answer to that, because you can't use your bank if you don't have production for it. So we see these 4 Vikings now on the way. That's going to be to try and deal with this Air Force. We get a big scan from a distance. 1 Yamato, 2 Yamato, 3 Yamato, 4 Yamato. Lots of the air army here is being taken out. Is there actually enough anti-air to deal with these BCs? The answer, I think, is going to be no. Colossus are now being absolutely blasted as well over here. EMPs need to land on this army. We get a couple of big feedbacks, a big storm, and a massive blink across the map. And all of a sudden, a game that looked almost unlosable here for Astrea is turning very, very sour, in which the bank is almost completely irrelevant. We have these extra gateways being built. We have more Stargates coming down, as well as this fleet beacon, because the old fleet beacon has already disappeared. That means that Void Rays are the only unit that can be built currently. And it's a full-on base trade, except a one-sided base trade. It's just Gumihpo killing bases, actually. It's not a base trade. There's no trading involved here. This is Gumihpo just taking bases away from the opponent. If this was a trade in real life, you'd have to go to, you know, you go to the judge. It's like, go to small claims court. Well, this isn't even small claims court territory anymore. Like, this is a lot of cash that is being taken here from Astrea by just losing all of his production. More pylons going down right now as well. Fleet Beacon finally about to finish up. A couple of... This is like the Void Ray in this case is kind of like the temporary tape, you know? You're just trying to... This is not a real solution to the problem. You know, until you can get a fix, like that will be there for a longer time. This is just, well, like a band-aid solution, these 3 Void Rays. We're gonna get 2 more, which I really don't like. Yeah, it should be pure Tempest at this point. So many Battlecruisers still out. BC is now moving in. Yamato's all on cooldown, as well as the teleport, of course. This is 7 Battlecruisers, and there's really not enough anti-air to deal with this. These Tempests are going to be absolutely vital to... honestly, just to try and keep Astrea alive. Army on the other side of the map, I don't think is big enough to really deal with any sufficient Battlecruiser force. This is a good pickoff, though. And Colossus are going to be helping out. Good blink. Can we get a recall, perhaps? I think recall should be possible, right? Do we have a recall available? There's no... oh, no, it's on cooldown. BCs will be going to town here on these Disruptors and Stalkers. And now the recall is available, but... oh, no. The Nexus got sniped. He was recalling to this Nexus. It got sniped, and he will end up losing all of his Disruptors. What a blunder out of Astrea there, who honestly was doing good business once more. Still has some mining, while his opponent barely has any. 48 workers have gone down on Astrea's side in the past, what is it, minute or so, minute and a half. This is not looking so nice right now for him. This is just not looking so nice. We have the Purification Nova that doesn't get to connect really with anything. 5 more Tempests are on the way. That's going to bring the total up to 10. There's 6 Battlecruisers. I mean, this is... there's still a lot of cash for Astrea. That's just the reality of things, right? There's a lot of cash for Astrea. And maybe Astrea believes that he can still do it. But I'm seeing a complete lack of splash here on the Protoss side. I'm also seeing a complete lack of healing here on the Terran side. As there's simply not enough medevacs. And I think it might even be worthwhile here to try and snipe some of these medevacs. Just so you can clear that bio army a little bit easier. One storm on this army is going to completely destroy it. But there's no Templar Archives on the map currently. So storm is going to be an unviable solution to this very big problem. That is this bio army. More medevacs are showing up as well right now. And that's going to try and heal up this army. Big blink forward out of gumihpo as he wants to try and finish this game here. There is a decent static defense presence though. 5-6 cannons, a battery here and there. gumihpo actually losing a lot of his army right now into this position. DT helping out on top of all of this as well. Can these next 3 carriers pop out? If yes, this might actually have been a huge blunder here. DT still active. Only 2 kills, but has dealt a lot of damage. Carriers, are they gonna finish? I think one of them will at least finish, and that might just be big enough. That might just be big enough. What a blunder here out of gumihpo. Going into this position while outmining his opponent. And now it's Astrea's turn to go across the map. I mean, there's not enough units. Well, there's 4 Vikings. There's 2 Void Rays, 3 Tempest, a couple of carriers. We could see more coming out. Oh, this Widow Mine could be big. Astrea saw it happen, though. It's going to use the carrier probably to defend against it. Mine's going to try and burrow. This orbital command is going to get taken out. That is a pretty big deal because that means less mules altogether. DT looking for something, but what are you looking for, Mr. DT? I think you should just try and get some kills over here. That's probably the most important. Astrea moving forward. Has a lot of cash in the bank still. I almost would say here, hey, rebuild that fleet beacon. Get producing, you know? Get going again, brother. And that's indeed what he's going to try and do, Viking. So... we'll snipe 1 Void Ray for free. 2nd Void Ray will also go down. Nice moves here. The Marine count is just too high, I think. I think the real problem here is going to be the Marine count. Where's that DT, though? Oh, it died. Not quite sure where it died, but it did end up falling. It's possible this... this mine has something to do with that, for sure. Yeah, there's just no splash force. If there was even just 4 Templar or 3 Templar, you get any amount of storms on this army. It would have been huge, but... in a base trade scenario, you also need some defensive splash to try and keep this base alive. We get a big stim in, and there's a recall available, but you can't recall into into like, what is it, 50 frenzied marines. So this base is toast. This base at the same time is also toast. There's still a lot of cash, which means that Astrea can rebuild things, but it's gonna lose all of these pylons, and that's really all the pylons you have, buddy. We have a new base coming up now. It's gonna get production in the main, that I do like. It's the least likely position Gumihpo is gonna, you know, check for. New orbital has made its way over to the 3 o'clock as we have a couple of SCVs, or sorry, a couple of mules, and SCVs should be, well, transferring over soon as well. 108 supply to 51. We have this army pushing forward, and I believe that this game is pretty much over at this point. Yes, Astrea still has a superior bank. Resources lost have been massively in favor of Gumihpo, so he's been fighting better already, and right now he also has a bigger army. It doesn't consist of Ghost anymore, but I really don't have a feeling that that is going to matter very much. Just don't have a feeling that it is going to matter very much. Batteries going down. It would be different if Astrea was outmining his opponent currently as well. You know, if Astrea had 4 bases or 3 bases with 50 workers and was just setting up these defenses, you could say, hey, maybe that's viable, maybe he can defend, but he's also being outmined the entire time. So he is on a timer, and honestly, I think that timer is about to run out. Here come the Vikings with the solid upgrades. The Marines will take out the batteries at a rapid pace as well, and this is going to be it for Astrea in this game. What a fabulous game it was. What a beautiful battlecruiser transition out of Gumihpo after struggling in the early stages of the mid-game, and honestly, even the middle stages of the mid-game and the later stages of the mid-game, but he does manage to get the dub in the end. GG gets called, and Gumihpo will win. That is going to be it for me today. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you did enjoy it. This was a game from the Korean StarCraft League number 23. So if you did enjoy it, be sure to check out their Patreon as well, as they're supporting the Korean StarCraft scene. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.